A government-owned enterprise, government-owned corporation, statutory corporation and a nationalized company in India is called a public sector undertaking, which are wholly or partly owned by state or territorial governments. In 1951, there were just 5 enterprises in the public sector in India, but in March 2019 this had increased to 348. These enterprises represented a total investment of about 16.41 lakh rupees crore as on the 31st of March 2019. The total paid-up capital as of the 31st of March 2019 stood at about 2.76 lakh rupees crore. CPSEs have been earned revenue of about 25.43 lakh rupees crore during the financial year 2018-19. When India achieved independence in 1947, it was primarily an agrarian entity, with a weak industrial base. There were only 18 state-owned Indian ordnance factories, previously established to reduce the dependency of the British Indian Army on imported arms, with the British Raj electing to leave agricultural production and what little Western aping industrialization to the private sector, with commercial tea processing, jute mills, of the like the Auckland Mill, railways, electricity generation, banks, coal mines, steel mills, civil engineering funded and owned by private individuals, of the like of Jamsetji Tata families, or through privately owned and sometimes traded companies, on the likes of the Bombay Stock Exchange. Vocal critiques of this Western capitalist system, notably the Indian independence movement leading Mahatma Gandhi, instead advocated for a self-sufficient, largely agrarian, communal village-based existence for the population in the first half of the 20th century, while others criticized the New Delhi, and particularly the presidencies, for not establishing sufficient British Raj-funded, Western-style schools, public libraries, universities, medical schools, engineering colleges, hospitals and asylums, to permit the rapidly expanding population to replicate Britain's own industrialization. Post-independence, the national consensus was in favor of rapid industrialization of the economy, which was seen as the key to economic development, improving living standards and economic sovereignty, building upon the Bombay Plan, which noted the requirement of government intervention and regulation. The first industrial policy resolution announced in 1948 laid down broad contours of the strategy of industrial development. Subsequently, the Planning Commission was formed by a cabinet resolution in March 1950 and the Industrial Act was enacted in 1951 with the objective of empowering the government to take necessary steps to regulate industrial development. Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru promoted an economic policy based on import substitution, industrialization and advocated a mixed economy. He believed that the establishment of basic and heavy industry was fundamental to the development and modernization of the Indian economy. India's second five-year plan and the Industrial Policy Resolution of 1956 emphasized the development of public sector enterprises to meet Nehru's national industrialization policy. His vision was carried forward by Dr. V. Krishnamurthy, known as the father of public sector undertakings in India. Indian statistician Prasanta Chandra Mahalanobis was instrumental to its formulation, which was subsequently termed the Feldman-Mahalanobis model. The major consideration for the setting up of PSUs was to accelerate the growth of core sectors of the economy, to serve the equipment needs of strategically important sectors, and to generate employment and income. A large number of SIC units were taken over from the private sector. Additionally, Indira Gandhi's government nationalized 14 of India's largest private banks in 1969, and an additional 6 in 1980. This government-led industrial policy, with corresponding restrictions on private enterprise, was the dominant pattern of Indian economic development until the 1991 Indian economic crisis. After the crisis, the government began disinvesting its ownership of several PSUs to raise capital and privatize companies facing poor financial performance and low efficiency. Certain public sector undertakings have been awarded additional financial autonomy. These companies are public sector companies that have comparative advantages giving them greater autonomy to compete in the global market so as to support in their drive to become global giants. Financial autonomy was initially awarded to 9 PSUs as Navratna status in 1997. Originally, the term Navratan meant a talisman composed of 9 precious gems. Later, this term was adopted in the courts of Gupta Emperor Vikramaditya and Mughal Emperor Akbar as the collective name for 9 extraordinary courtiers at their respective courts. In 2010, the government established the higher Maharatna category, which raises a company's investment ceiling from 1,000 crore rupees to 5,000 crore rupees. The Maharatna firms can now decide on investments of up to 15% of their net worth.